Hey Honest community, before we dive into this episode, we've got a quick free favour to ask. If you enjoyed the Honest Property podcast, please hit like, follow and subscribe wherever you're listening from. It helps us grow, reach more people and bring on guests that you want to hear from. Thanks for being a part of this. We appreciate you more than you know.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Honest Property Podcast. Your hosts, Becky and Ruth, the Honest Property Sisters. We've built a multi-million pound property portfolio over the last 14 years now, and we love enjoying having unfiltered chats about building wealth, purpose, and freedom that actually feels good. And we especially love talking to guests. And on today's episode, we've got Sebastian Spikes.
Hi.
And hey, so you know what? Your Higgy House is literally below our Airbnb. And I remember, well, when we had an Airbnb, because our Airbnb was in the same building, in Clare Street, in the centre of Bristol. And we saw it and we're like, oh, I wonder how their operations work. And then lo and behold, later on, we get connected on Instagram somehow.
Yeah.
And now here
Well,
we
yeah,
are.
we can talk about that today. That's our flagship apart hotel. So yeah, it's a good story behind that one. So
Yeah. So I think before, because yeah, I'd love to unpick the whole journey and how you got there, as well as your digital business.
yeah,
But today's episode is really interesting because you're at a point where it's not just like acquiring property, you've scaled your business and now you've systemized and you've got an operating system and systemized everything. And we know, like we had one Airbnb above where you've got many. And we all know that it's all about systems, communication, admin, all the moving parts. Um, and you've now developed something that ties in really well. Well, I mean, you'll share with us a lot more about it, Shinichi.ai,
yeah,
which is for the
that's the one.
property Airbnb space, service accommodation space.
Yeah, short-term
Um,
rental specific.
yeah. So for people hearing about you for the first time, Sebastian, what actually is Higgy House today?
So Higgy House is a property company. We do everything from development to management to sourcing. It's a family company. So my dad started it in 2017. I joined in 2019. He lives in Thailand, so your sort of side of the world. He does all of the sort of stuff that needs grey hair, I guess, raising finance, let's put it that way, and sort of the management of the brand. And then I do all the stuff on the ground, so the operations. I'm definitely more of a systems guy. So we have some HMOs, we've got some commercial assets, but the business that I run day to day, for better or for worse, is the short-term rental business. So that's Higgy House Operations. We're at 46 units now, which is quite a lot, and has
Wow.
a
Are they
lot.
all in
Yeah,
Bristol?
no
They're all Bristol.
mix. So half is in Bristol, half is in Cardiff.
Mm.
Ah. Are they all
Yeah,
um
so
are they all like do you lease the properties and then rent them out or do you
yeah,
own
so
them?
we've got a mix. So we started in rent to rent. So we have quite a few houses that are just big houses, rent to rent. This was back in 2019. So our original sort of niche was big houses, milestone events, we call it, but basically hens and stags. We took large 6, 7 bed properties, rent them to contractors in the week, and then big groups on the weekend. Obviously, then COVID hit. So we had a 4 or 5 big houses. We preferred to do that over the having what you need 4 or 5 1 beds to make the same amount as a house. And back in
Mm.
2019, it was very undersupplied. So in Bristol, you could not find a house in a central location for a group of 16. So it worked. But in the last couple of years, it's sort of fizzling out, obviously, with the cost of living crisis. There's lots of changes. There's more supply for those types of houses. And obviously, COVID, there was no big groups. So we had to pivot quite drastically during COVID, and that was how Higgy House Apart Hotels was born, actually. So that building on Clare Street was an old office building. So the landlord had a 30-year lease with Coventry Building Society. That ended in 2020. They sort of panicked, obviously went, well, what do we do? And obviously us being Higgy House, we decided to go, oh yeah, we'll buy an office building right in the heart of COVID. Yeah, that's obviously a great move. But that was sort of how we not sort of fell into apart hotels, but decided how do we take a building that's on the high street and turn it into something that can bring sort of tourists back and obviously generate some cash for us. And it was sort of looking at how do we become a calm in the center of a storm for planners and obviously get through planning. in a smoother way, although it's never smooth, is it? So yeah, we took that, decided to convert it into a C1 apart hotel. It was our first apart hotel. Obviously, previously we've done quite a few HMOs, and then turned that into a six unit. Had great success with it, and then moved on to our second, which is a 15 unit apart hotel in Cardiff. So same playbook, sort of reinventing retail, taking buildings that otherwise would either be empty or having the shop front sort of with a to let sign on it, and buying them, developing them, and then operating them. So we have sort of different pipelines. I don't do the development side. I do the sort of hand the keys, basically cash flow the asset.
Oh
How
wow.
did you
That's
originally
more,
end
you do
up?
a lot more than I expected. I thought it was literally the serviced accommodation.
Yeah, no, we do quite a lot. So we've got international student business. So we've got 17 apartments that we rent to international students. We've got a development company. We've got a portfolio of HMOs. We've got an investment arm, and then an investment sort of club, I guess, if you will. So yeah, all things property.
Did you always picture it becoming like this big operational business? Was that always like how many? So it started from your dad, and now you're the
Yeah.
next generation. How did you, have you always known that you were going to get into it's essentially a family business?
Yeah. Yeah, so my dad is a serial entrepreneur. For those that know him or don't, he has built and sold quite a few companies. So seven, I think, is his startups. He sold his most recent company in 2017, and then obviously had quite a big pot of cash and decided, well, what does one do when you have lots of money? Most people go into property. He then sort of went down the journey, and then I was 19 at the time, sort of rent to rent, and was looking at. I was in sort of quite a lot of communities around the space. Saw it as an opportunity, and then kind of just fell into it. Really, I'm one of four, so I'm the youngest child. I'm the one that's focused on business. All my other siblings are in science, actually, so biochemistry. I just love business. So yeah, didn't really was never really an initial thing, but then with these sort of short-term rentals, it was originally a cash flow vehicle to then put back into HMOs. So it wasn't intended to be a sort of massive long-term thing. It was like, right, how do we drive lots of cash flow, pump that into assets that essentially consume a lot of cash, but it's a longer term generational wealth, I guess is the cliche term. And then just realized it was quite a viable business. I enjoy operations. Some days I don't, obviously. I think that's very common in the industry. It's quite a lot, but you're always on call. And then, yeah, I think the apart hotel piece in 2020 was sort of when we went, actually, this could be something quite big and hopefully global. That's our plan. So we've got a 7-year plan from today to get to 1,000 units by 2034. And I just wanted to shift away from having nice Airbnbs and actually having a brand that people sort of seek out and go to cities and look for unique places that they can stay for 2 nights or long term. And that was sort of a part of it. So yeah, never really an original intention, but it's kind of just happened that way.
Wow, 1,000 units, that's plenty. And global, does that mean, um, I mean, if your dad's based in Thailand now, would that mean like that would be a natural next phase?
Globally.
Possibly, yeah. We want to sort of look at second cities in the UK. So rather than going for the big Londons, Manchester, Edinburgh, sort of looking at the smaller cities that are underserved, and then build a sort of portfolio of sort of clusters of assets, and then hopefully in 7 years exit to one of the bigger players. That's the goal for the apart
So
hotels
basically,
anyway.
like the commute, what you consider the commuter cities.
Yeah, and sort of like, yeah, I guess not underserved in that regard, but sort of where all the big guys with hundreds of millions go and get 200 units, all the places where they don't do that and looking that still have quite strong demand. So like Torquay, Bath, Cheltenham, sort of the smaller places that are quite unique and still have great
Mm.
demand, but again are underserved by the bigger players.
At what point? Because I know every time we have DM'd in the past, you've been
Mhm.
really busy putting out fires and things. I wanted to ask, what point did the business start feeling heavy behind the scenes? Because I wonder if that was what might have been
The spark.
the spark or inspiration behind your online venture.
Yeah, no, of course. So for us, it was probably when we crossed 15 units. I think most people who are in short-term rentals will sort of feel like you can kind of get away with doing 10 to 15 by yourself. But again, it's a one-way ticket to burnout, right? You're always on call. You always work weekends. There's not any real respite until you build a team. So we're now
Mm.
very big on sort of VA teams, so labor arbitrage and sort of AI and systems. I've always been a systems guy. I love data. I love getting in and sort of looking
A
at quite a
techie
messy process. Yeah, and taking it into something that can be sort of stepped through. And that was sort of Shinichi was born out of my own operational pains. So going, well, why does it have to be like this? Why can't we do it this way? And obviously just
Interesting.
loving tech and new sort of everyone's talking about AI at the moment. So yeah, I remember when the first sort of GPT came out back in 2020 and playing around with GPT-3, and then since then, so I've been had an eye on tech and sort of AI and systems. I enjoy it. It's something that I do. Hate to say in my spare time because I don't really have any spare time, but yeah, just saw it as an opportunity to actually alleviate some of that pressure. Yeah, so I'd say probably about 15 units. You sort of get what breaking point, and then you also have the revenue to support investment into systems, into people, into teams. So luckily, I don't do too much of the draining stuff, which is the guest comms and the stuff like that. But that was how Shinichi was born, and yeah, the systems piece.
I love that. I mean, it sounds very 2026 to create an AI for um
property.
property.
Just
Yeah.
Yeah, well,
So
I think in this day and age, AI has democratized software, right? So anyone with a weekend and lots of caffeine can essentially build things that you could only have at an enterprise level sort of 10 years ago.
mm,
So I think there's a lot of people realizing actually I don't need 5 developers and a website person and all of these different components to build quite powerful systems that are unique and custom to my business. And that was sort of
mm,
what I found and what I wanted to help others do with Shinichi is actually you don't need massive budgets and massive teams. That the tools are out there, just you need to know how to use them. And that
mm.
obviously takes time, and people are worried about their businesses and mortgages and keeping afloat, right? So that most people don't have time to look
So
into that.
essentially, what does Shinichi do?
So Shinichi is a guest comms platform. So we do automated guest comms. So we've automated 67% of all of our guest comms. So the repetitive stuff, what's parking, have you got towels, what's the Wi-Fi? So the stuff that really sort of drains your team, right? If you're saying that 100 times a week over and over and over again, AI can handle that. But we go a layer above that because there's lots of comms tools for those that know in the industry. There are some key players. We've gone above to essentially do operational intelligence. So what I
mm,
realized that is when the AI is answering all of these things, you can actually gather quite a lot of operational insights from the communications. So how guests are responding, what stay phase is it? So is it pre-arrival, during stay, post-checkout? Is it negative, positive, neutral? Is it a complaint? And sort of stacking up, we process probably 1,000 messages a month, taking all of those messages, which manually you just wouldn't go through all of those. And then actually looking, okay, do I have specific operational problems at unit A? Or is there a certain period of time where we're busier? So on Fridays, there are busiest days, but at what hour? And I think that for me is the core part of Shinichi is taking all of the data points and showing it to people in a way that they haven't seen it. So aggregating comms, right? People just think, okay, you answer a message and that's it. But actually, you can drive a lot of operational decision making. So once a month, we sit down with our teams and obviously our clients as well, and essentially show them their portfolio and go, well, actually, here's all the problems you've had in the month. Here's units with particular hardware issues, or this comes up multiple times in particular units. Here's what we suggest you do about it. And then we track it each month.
mm. Can I ask what is the biggest problem that comes up over and over again?
I think it depends on the unit, but I would say complaint wise, it's probably cleaning. I think most people will feel that
Oh
it's
yeah.
you can never get it perfect. But the highest volume of messages is funnily enough, I thought it would be parking and Wi-Fi, but it's just basically how do I check in, which is if you don't have the right systems. Yeah, we basically track all of those. So we log all the messages and say, okay, what is this message saying? And then give you a report essentially once a month that tells you everything. And one extra step beyond that is also your team performance. So when the AI doesn't handle it, how fast are your team responding? Because that for us is quite a big metric when you're managing remote teams. So we have under 5 minute KPIs. I can never in a million years imagine tracking that manually, right? You'd have to watch every single message, take the timestamps. Whereas now we just generate reports and we can see in a snapshot, okay, when we had escalations, what was the escalation? And also how quickly did our team respond? And if a certain team member is taking 30 minutes to respond, obviously in our industry, response time is absolutely paramount for everything we do. So then we can look at, okay, what's going on with that person? What type of stuff are they dealing with? And make the operational changes from that data.
That's true, because I think, especially in any sort of service, you're providing any sort of service, that then there's no waiting. There's no the customer is always right. So the customer wants to have an answer within a second. Do you think that there's like a point where you kind of realize that the business, like if you're depending too much on a business with humans manually, there's like a flaw there, like or like you wouldn't be able to keep up with like the speed that you provide now?
No, absolutely. I think there's definitely increased expectations. So obviously we've been in the short-term rental space for 7 years. So we've seen the sort of change in guest dynamics. Guests do expect answers within a minute. They expect it round the clock and they want their issues handled quickly. Otherwise, they're going to be asking for refunds. So I think for me, it's more having that instant response for 60% of the communication, but then giving my team the capacity to do the things that actually matter, which is the human element. I don't think there's a flaw. I just think because it's such a repetitive thing, your human resources end up get almost wasted because they end up burning out because they're answering these same questions over and over again. So
which takes, you're saying like which takes the most time is the guest communication, or is it like the management of the team, or like which parts of it is the most time consuming?
So I'd say it's definitely seasonal. It depends on, are we coming into high season? Is it low season? What sort of phase are we in that sort of consumes the most amount of resources? But I think for my team, it is definitely communication, and then also managing cleaning teams, obviously for the changeovers. But yeah, for me, it was more freeing up my human resources to do all the things that they do best, and that's all they focus on. They don't have to deal with what's the Wi-Fi for the millionth time, or where do I park, or do you offer towels? It's almost a waste of very valuable people. So I think it's a harmonious relationship where you can actually supercharge the resources you do have and then infinitely scale as well. Because if I've got a team that can now have 60% of their time freed up, well, that either means I can have more units or less team. So
what surprised you the most once you started using AI in your operations, or was there anything at all?
I think how effective it actually is. So I think a lot of people have this misconception of, oh, I would never trust AI with sort of the guest facing stuff. A guest doesn't care. They just want their sort of question answered instantly. If they get the correct answer factually in under a minute, they're happy and they'll leave a good review. I think what surprised me is how, guests don't care. I think we've had a one review that said extremely responsive host. It was amazing, 5-star, and none of the team actually spoke to her across her entire stay. It was, she asked questions, she had a response, and that was it.
Did they tell that it's AI?
No, I don't think so. We've never had someone say, "Oh, is this AI?" I think, but that comes down to prompting. So that's what we do: is we create systems that effectively blend in with your team. So we take months of conversational context. Luckily, we had years. Train our systems with Shinichi on your tone, how you respond to messages. So it's not as robotic as like a chat GPT answer. It speaks like
Yeah.
you because it's been trained on how you speak.
Wow, that is genius. I love that.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
What are businesses still doing manually in 2026 that you think makes no sense anymore?
I think data synthesis and research, I think that's one of the biggest things that AI does really, really well. So looking across, so we use it for like new markets, sort of how the industry's faring. So what are sort of global elements. So taking all these parts of like data points and then synthesizing it into something that's easy to read. I think there's a lot of people that still would spend a lot more time than they need to sort of researching markets when you can, with the right prompting, use something like Manus. They have a thing called wide research. So essentially it splits your task up into multiple agents and then goes off and researches that one element and then pulls it back together into a report. So yeah, I would say probably data analytics if I had to pick one.
I think that's more than a lot of people actually do, to be honest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What parts of hospitality or business do you think should always stay human? I know we can't get like cleaners, essentially, they are a massive part of the hospitality business. So I think it's like the human
That's
side of
one.
that. That's one thing, but is there anything else?
If we had robots to clean, that would be great. I think maybe in like 10 years we'll have robot cleaners as well. Who knows? I think it's the things that require empathy and essentially a judgment call, because AI is great at sort of answering it with the context you've given it, but a lot of the time it requires you to look at things that an AI can't see, and it's how is this person responding? Are they stressed? Are they upset? Or is it just someone who's quite neutral? Some people complain but they don't really care. Some people complain but it's really stressful for them. And I think navigating that, the sort of emotional depth, whereas an AI would sort of see those two complaints and answer them the same. So I think for me, that's probably the biggest thing, is not replacing humans, but giving my team and other people's teams the ability to focus on those things so they can do them better.
I
Yeah.
have a personal question actually for you, of because we did a podcast recently about AI, and like we're very pro AI,
Mhm.
but we also realized from our perspective that we realized that we were being so efficient with AI that we ended up making more space to then put more work on our plate. Do you
Mhm.
ever find yourself doing kind of like the same thing? Or you actually give yourself like a moment? I know that you are quite busy, so I feel like it's the first one.
Yeah, it's definitely the first one. I think it's just how I am personally. I tend to hyperfixate on things. And then once I'm stuck in that, it's just like nothing else to me matters. I want to really just do that one thing. Luckily, that's been AI for the last, what, 2 years, where I've just gone actually really deep diving into how we can supercharge our businesses and sort of have those one person teams, but doing things across all these different spaces. So yeah, I think it can be quite overwhelming because you can do everything. So then it's almost like, where do you focus your attention? And my sort of rule of thumb is actually what we call shipping things. So don't just build things for the sake of building something. Go actually take a process that you want to automate, or something that is taking a lot of your time, but you think AI can handle it, and essentially seeing that all the way through. So I think it's kind of the shiny object syndrome for me, where I'll jump from thing to thing to thing because you've got all of these tools, but actually then it's sort of just dopamine release and you're actually moving the needle in the business. So I think that's,
Yeah.
for me, is probably definitely struggled with it a lot in the early phases, because you're just like, oh my God, it sort of opens, stretches your
All very
mind
exciting.
to the possibilities. But yeah, just seeing things through to the end and making sure that you deliver the system or the automation or the process that you're trying to streamline, essentially.
In the pursuit of AI, trying to make our lives simpler, because I think that's really what it is about, and reducing error, human error, where it can be helped. Do you feel like AI is creating calm, scalable businesses, or do you
Yeah,
think it's making it more complicated?
I think it's giving people tools to essentially open up a whole world of things. So, for example, if you needed let's touch on guest comms. You would need to hire, you get to 25 units, you get to 50 units, to 75 units. You need a new hire, you need to train staff. Whereas now I think you can go faster and bigger and more efficiently and sort of compete with the big enterprise businesses who have got 15,000 units and whole teams. I think it's sort of the age of the sort of one person business. And I think that for me, I try and tell people just get started, even if it seems overwhelming. There's all these different things. Just focus on one thing and just start, and then you'll end up seeing how that can free up your time, because it's different for everyone. I think back to your question of making it more efficient. I think yeah, definitely.
Yeah, because I think that the worry would be you've grown something, but on the backhand you've accidentally, because our ethos is like building a life where you can claim a lot of time back to and enjoy the things that aren't necessarily like money making but are important to you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's easy to accidentally um systemize it so well that you end up just filling your time with more of the thing when it was meant to make it more efficient. That's what I hear a lot anyway. And I know that we've done that accidentally ourselves.
Guilty. We're talking
Yeah.
about ourselves.
Yeah.
You sort of go and then go, oh, and there's this other thing, and then I'll do this other thing, and then I think that comes down to self-awareness, right, and knowing what you actually want. So a lot of people do want to free up more time to do more work. Like some people, I enjoy working, I enjoy what I do. So for me, freeing up more of the mundane stuff to allow me to work on things that do bring me alive and are creative. Some people, that's spending time with family or traveling or whatever it might be. And I think that's what AI gives a lot of people is an unlock to that. But if you don't know what that is, you end up falling into that trap, I guess.
Yeah, that makes sense. And we all have seasons. Like I'm not sure how old you are, Sebastian, but when we were
26.
yeah, so
You're
when we were in
young.
our
Yeah,
20s,
we
we were
feel
like,
you.
woo,
We-
energy. But then you get to a point in your 30s where you might have children that you need to like look after, and then your time's a little more your focus has changed onto something else. But I think the idea of AI is it allows you that a flexibility, right? To be able to redirect your energy depending on where you're at.
Yeah, and I
What's your
think it's more systems. So if you move the AI part, you can systematize yourself out of the business. I just think AI makes that possible for
Strongest.
people who aren't necessarily as tech inclined, but you can just ask an intelligent machine to tell you, well, how do I do this? I think that's the key distinction.
I guess it also helps it make it easier when you want to exit later because everything's all the systems and processes are already in the AI. It's not like you need to spend too much time shadowing or training, having anyone shadow you or train if they were to buy a business later.
Yeah, no, for sure. So we actually built it's called a second brain. So we essentially that's one thing is the data for AI needs to be there. And I think that's what a lot of people misunderstand is you can't plug AI into a business if you don't have the right procedures, if you don't have data, if you don't have, again, systems. So I think a lot of people sort of plug AI into messy systems and then expect it to work. It needs the context. And that's what we've built is a sort of second brain that is essentially all of our business context. So then when we do plug AI into it, it knows exactly who we are, what we do, how we do certain things. And that's allowed us to then have individual training agents. So for example, when I bring on a new VA, instead of me sitting there and answering all their questions, I just say, well, ask our second brain this, that it has more information than I can probably give you. And you get an answer specifically to our business that helps with that as well.
Yeah.
So
I have a personal question actually, just following on from this, but I'd love to know because like what is this is a personal question, but what is your like aversion? Because you are still young, you have like so many more years of business ahead
old.
of you.
26 feels old to me.
Just because you're just so wise, you've done so much already. But what can I ask what your definition of success is, or like how it's changed since you were at the beginning days of Higgy House?
Yeah, so I think early on it was success for me was business validation. So is the business growing? Are we making money? How hard have I worked? How long have I worked? And I think that's definitely changed as I've gotten older. Obviously, that was when I was 19. You sort of have I guess, a naive version of what success looks like. I would say for me, it's being able to do what I want when I want to and where I want to. I think it's that freedom for me is success. So if I just want to pack up my bags and fly to somewhere and travel, I can do that and I can work from anywhere. So I think having the freedom and not sort of that chasing hundreds of millions and that sort of sort of that young business mindset is like, yeah, I want to be the next Apple and have loads and loads of money. It's like, yeah, but that's not actually easily attainable. So you kind of have misconceptions about how quick you can get somewhere. But I would say, yeah, success for me is the freedom to choose. So if I do want to work on a project, I can do that. If I want to take time off, I can do that. I'm not being sort of trapped in a box, I guess.
That makes a lot of sense. So we have a final question that we like to ask all our guests. It's not like your last final words or anything, and it doesn't even have to be about property. But the question is, honestly, the biggest lesson I've learned is fill the gap.
A hard one. There's a lot of lessons, and I think if we tie it to AI, I think that just starting and just not paralyzing yourself with all of the options that you have, and self-awareness. So understanding again, back to the success question, what does success look like, and understanding that is it a version of someone else's success that you've sort of twisted, and for that it takes a lot of introspection, I suppose. So it's not really a lesson, but that's probably my advice.
It's very
true.
true.
It's true. But we've come to realize as well, because we are a bit older than you now, that like the versions of success just look different at different points. Because we started our entrepreneurial journey at the similar time that you did, I think. So I can very much relate to a lot of what you've actually said today.
Good. I'm glad. That's good. It means that I'm not just spouting nonsense then.
Well, the thing that is the most interesting to me is how you've taken a family business, which is like fundamentally kind of ageless and timeless in the way that it runs, but you've modernized it in a way that allows more freedom by using modern tech. And I think that's really very
Smart.
super. Yeah. Thank you so much for this conversation.
No, that's all right. It's been a pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, we could carry on talking about this, and I'm sure we'll stay in touch. Especially how modern businesses are changing behind the scenes because it's ever evolving, isn't it? And who knows what the next generation is gonna figure out that we didn't know.
It's a bit scary. You see like 4-year-olds with iPads and you think, oh God, what's going to happen to them when they're like 18, with all of this, the AI and agentic software and robots and chips in your brain. Who knows?
We'll get those robot cleaners. That's what will happen.
Yeah. Yeah.
So where can people find you and your businesses?
So LinkedIn's probably the best. So that's where I'm the most active. Just Sebastian Spikes on LinkedIn. We're also quite heavily on socials. So shinichi.ai on social media, and obviously Higgy House as well on Instagram. So
Cool.
Instagram and LinkedIn.
Perfect. We'll pop those links in the show notes below. It's going to be on YouTube or Spotify or something. But yeah, thanks so much, Sebastian, and we'll speak to you again very, very soon, I'm sure.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate your time. It's lovely to see you.
Thank you.
Bye.